Welcome back to Project 613. Today we continue our discussion talking about how utensils, known as kalim in halacha, could become ritually impure by coming in contact with any of the sources of ritual impurity. And the next source of ritual impurity on the list is what's called in halacha a zava. We mentioned this previously. And this is a woman who experiences abnormal vaginal bleeding. And this can be a source of ritual impurity, not only to cause other people to become ritually impure, but in relevance to today's discussion, also to cause kalim, to cause any utensils which she comes in contact with ritually impure as well. Now, here's an interesting thing when it comes to these laws, which, as mentioned, were really very much relevant at the time that the temple stood, because one could not enter the temple or partake of sacrificial foods if they were ritually impure. Therefore, Jewish people had to be very conscious of these laws back in the day. Now, a fascinating thing is that in the archaeological digs that have been uncovered in Israel, specifically around the Temple Mount, there have been multiple signs. There is much evidence pointing to the laws of ritual purity. Most well known is from all of the mikvahot, all of the ritual baths that have been found, which we'll speak about later when it comes to the mitzvah of mikvah, that have been found around the Temple Mount area. But related to today's discussion, there has also been archaeological findings which show us, number one, that the Jews lived in that area, and number two, that they practiced these laws. And that is that one of the laws of utensils becoming ritually impure is that only certain materials are susceptible to ritual impurity. One of the materials that cannot ever become ritually impure is stone. Stone can never contract ritual impurity, and even a utensil that is carved out of stone or into stone cannot become ritually impure. And therefore, it is commonly understood that in the time that the temple stood, Jewish people who practiced these laws would go to extra efforts in order to use stone utensils rather than earthenware utensils, for example, because then they could be safe, knowing that even if they would be in touch with ritual impurity, that would not be transferred onto their utensils. And interestingly, in the archaeological finds around Temple Mount and in Israel in general, they have found many such stone vessels, either bowls or other things that were carved into stone, which apparently was unique for the time and was not very well, was not used very much other than by the Jews who were keeping these laws. And now we can understand why this is the case, because for them this would have made a big difference in order to make sure that their utensils would not become ritually impure, and in the case of an earthenware utensil, would not become lost altogether if becoming ritually impure. And this is the reason why stone utensils were used then, and indeed in recent years have been discovered in the archaeological findings as well. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.